Sorry if this is painful. We're cutting it up into sections today, and that means you're going to have to jump in and out of the stream if you like watching the whole thing. But we're trying to cut it up so it's more bite-sized for the segments that you want to watch. And this one here is on the Liberal photo ops and the scandals that are ongoing in the Liberal government. I'm Jim Check, and with me, Ian Burns. And here we're talking about the Liberals, really. And it's day 2 of the United Nations. Anita Anand there with their photo op. They love a good photo op. I mean, the Liberals, if our country ran just on photo ops, we'd be killing it. We'd be absolutely in the lead on the photo ops.
Not just the photo ops, but also the 2 sentences there written by a 25-year-old press officer for Anita Anand. Canada is stepping up to show that principled leadership matters. And what does principled leadership look like? Is it being recorded by somebody talking about how you're doing a very controversial policy just to appease people in Quebec? That's principled leadership, I guess. Or what about Anita Anand, for God's sake, who said when it looked like Justin Trudeau was going to lose the election for the Liberals, she's like, all right, guys, peace out. Then all of a sudden, Carney's back. He's going to win the election. And she's like, oh, I've changed my mind. Actually, I'm back because I believe in principled leadership.
Well, here's Anita Anand, and tell me if she was really a pro-Palestine declaration minister there. Let's watch this clip here at the UN, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister.
This context.
Watch Anita Anand.
Canada recognizes the state of Palestine.
That's good. That's good there. What do you see?
That was very excited, wasn't she?
Like, that was like thunderous applause, and like that's the leadership that they wanted. And obviously, like there's no. I wonder if that same applause would be there for the return of all the hostages.
Well, not even that. I mean, both of those things are ultimately, that is closer to being a Canadian concern because there have been Canadian citizens that were captured by Hamas. But overall, this conflict is inconsequential for Canada and for Canadians. It's thousands of miles away. It involves 2 people that have an ancient enmity going back millennia. It's got nothing to do with Canada, really. And there's nothing Canada can do to change this situation. What I find most interesting is she gets that excited about something so abstract and so distant and of so little consequence to the Canadian people.
That's the most
and the
passion.
reason, the reason for that, if you're wondering why, and I speak from experience because I was once myself a very energetic, fanatical leftist, the reason she's doing that is because it is an obsession of the left, Palestine. It's kind of how they sharpen their teeth. It's how they prepare themselves for a political life. It starts with things like that, like being pro-Palestine and anti-Israel. And it's just student politics. If you go down to the nearest university to where you live, and just look around at the kids, there's a very, very high chance they'll be talking about Palestine. And they'll know nothing about it, obviously, just like Anita Anand proved. She knows nothing about this conflict. But it's a shibboleth of the left. And it's a passion that and similarly, to be fair, at least in the US, Israel is a passion for the right in the US, not so much here. But it's kind of, we have to sit back, I think, as Canadian citizens, Canadian voters, and we have to look at this and say, like, what are our leaders doing? Why are they so obsessed with these two peoples thousands of miles away that have nothing to do with us? What is going on? Why are they so passionate? What's this? Where does this fervor come from? And why? And I think the same is happening in the US. But as we just mentioned in that previous segment, sometimes Canada's a few years behind the US. But we have to ask that question. What on earth is going on with this woman? What has gone through her mind for her to be so devoted to a foreign people and what they want? They don't even want this anyway. Sorry, I'm sort of like, I'm overstating how big of a deal this is from Canada, as if the Palestinian people care at all about Canada recognizing Palestine.
If you tie her tweets together, it was a dig at the United States. We're providing the leadership. And that applause there was like, it's like your own kids up on stage and you just gave birth, and it's like, F yeah. And it's like it was, are we losing Ian or what happened there? He muted himself. Well, there you go. But it was such a wild thing to watch Anita and Ann. They're just going crazy there with that. And let's talk about some of the liberal scandals as we see if we can get Ian back on the screen here. Here's this, as I say, is going to be the BC NDP, one of the biggest scandals. You dropped out for a second willingly, or just you're back?
I don't know. I have no idea what happened there.
Chrystia Freeland. Cabinet aides and internal emails schemed. No, the Liberals never schemed, do they? Schemed to limit the damage from public disclosures that Canadian taxpayers finance Chinese shipyard jobs. And that's from the records. It said, distance ourselves from this as much as possible, wrote one aide to the former transport minister, Chrystia Freeland, as she denied personal knowledge of this $1 billion BC ferry deal. And then she lied to Parliament too, let's remember that part. The goal was to try and point people back towards the fact that the procurement questions and decisions need to go to BC. And that's one from one of the staff emails as they schemed together and figure out how to deflect this blame as this thing blew up in their faces. Cabinet aides suggested Minister Freeland and others be ready to go on about our disappointment and state publicly we had nothing to do with this other than coughing up $1 billion of Canadian taxpayer dollars with full knowledge. Internal emails were disclosed yesterday, and that's Dan Albus that was pushed for this. That was his motion to put that committee together. It is our attempt to make the best of the worst, said one staff email. Political opinion as of June 18th email from the Prime Minister's office. My immediate instinct is that we can move forward with this announcement as a paper release and refuse to wear any of this procurement choices. This is disappointing to see from BC's ferries, but this is their decision entirely. So they want to find a scarecrow, a scapegoat, or whatever to hang this on, when clearly the worst thing is they're scheming to hide it, but then the lying. I mean, is there no more shame? Is there no more shame? Just fess up. Like, I mean, if this is the lady, was the second most powerful lady in the Liberal government for the past 10 years. When she resigned as the finance minister, she said she didn't agree with most of the policies, didn't agree with the carbon tax, didn't agree with the GST tax, taco and tinsel relief thing, because she said it was ridiculous. Didn't agree with the huge deficit of $65 billion, which is now going to be a lot more. She didn't agree with all these things. She said she was basically bullied, and now she's out and out lying. And this is the person that is supposed to be an example for Canadian women, Canadian youth, Canadian public. The person that's in charge of our finances, or was in charge of our finances, which is and also the deputy prime minister, and is now also, or not anymore. She was in charge of transport, which is one of the biggest cabinets. But now she's going to be the special envoy to the Ukraine that we just gave $4 billion that we said we can't disclose how it's going to spend. So she's shown a lot of what you call reasons to trust her with a $4 billion bag of cash.
It's principled leadership, isn't it? As Anita and Ann said, this is what principled leadership looks like. Something that's also interesting is just to think, obviously we all know that we're paying politicians to lie to us. They take our money, put it in their bank accounts, and then lie to us. That's the transaction. We know that. But what's interesting is that these lesser creatures who follow around, the bag carriers, the staff, as they're called, public servants. It's interesting to know that they scheme with the political actors to try and mislead the public, to try and put out misinformation. The misinformation that the federal government had nothing to do with this. Where's the CBC with an emergency fact check on that? This purchase by BC Ferries was not possible, would never have happened without the federal government. That's the reason it happened. So to try and claim that, oh, not me, boss, nothing to do with me, that is misinformation. Their favorite word. Not only is it misinformation, but it also corrodes democracy and faith in institutions, belief in democracy. What's the point? Some people will be asking themselves, what is the point of a democracy if we're ruled over by liars and corrupt creeps? What's the point? A lot of people will ask that.
Don't forget
and somebody like this, Chrystia Freeland, will the next day pop her head up and say, the importance of democracy. It's like, nobody's buying that. You're selling the wrong product. you need to fix your own house. And again, we have to say, for the millionth time, thank God for Blacklocks for shining a light on this, because otherwise nobody would know.
And again, just watching the news in the next couple of days. This should be, if this was Stephen Harper's government, this would be just nonstop CBC and CTV just going at him like how she needs to resign immediately. But they kind of moved her off anyway, kind of like fortuitously. They moved her off. They moved her off into a post where she's going to get access to a $4 billion bag of cash that has, they said they're not going to disclose how they're going to dole it out. So, wow, talk about a post, eh? Can I get that post?
No. No way, because you've not been involved. I just have to respond to somebody here called Joel.
I thought you were going to see that.
Funny, Joel. So number one, the first thing I have to say is, it gets in my eyes. That's why I do that. It's not vanity, you sad act. And then second of all, show me a picture of your face and your hair. Do you have the balls to do that, little man?
Well, you know what? I would do what Ian's doing, but I just don't have the locks to do it, right?
I'm sure Joel doesn't either, but he can sit there in the YouTube comments and whine.
I get slagged on a lot too for my gold chain. It's a Canadian maple leaf, actually. It's a pure Canadian maple, because I love Canada, I love our resource sector, and I was a mine site controller. So if you want to slag on that, you can slag on that one as well. But it is a Canadian maple. So if you understand what a Canadian maple is, I wear it right on me. That's my proudness of a Canadian maple. I guess I'm a nationalist. I guess
Patriotism.
you would call that a nationalist, I guess, right? I have no idea. And you want to talk about scandals?
Thanks for telling me, Joel. Thanks for the spelling mistake, and also thanks for telling me that my hair hasn't been in my eyes. I mean, you would know, wouldn't you, Joel? You would know, mate, not me.
Hey, Joe, we love your comments anyway, even though you're slagging on us. But
even though you're a massive fanny.
Spread it around. Don't forget to slag on me. I mean, a lot of people do. So what the heck? Hey, at least we're willing to take it. Whereas the CBC, they turn off their comments, so they're not willing to listen. Rosemary Barton will just dole out the negativity and whatever. Anyway,
it's a good laugh, but I'm being cheeky there, Joel. You know, I don't hate you, Joel. We're best mates, aren't we?
Program to save four.
I'm guessing you're American then, Joel, so maybe that wasn't a spelling mistake, because you're using lots of American spellings there.
Anyway, you want to talk about scandals? Chrystia Freeland says, look at this scandal. Our safety minister, Gary, says, oh, I can top that one. I can literally top that. And there was a leaked audio that in Global ran there where he was actually talking to one of his tenants there. And he said that the reason they did this gun ban was to win those 44 Liberal seats in Quebec. They're not really taking it serious. It was just to get those 44 seats. And he said, even if you get arrested, I'll bail you out. And I'll even cover the cost of your gun if they take your gun. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? What is going on? What is literally going on?
This is open corruption. This should be at the very center of all political public debate in Canada for the next several weeks. This is the biggest political corruption scandal. I mean, I don't know how long. How long has it been since we've had one of this magnitude? This is like, I kind of, when I read the full transcript, my jaw dropped, actually. He even says, I'll bail you out. I'll give you the money that you lose. And then he says, I don't believe in this. The police, he said, I'm not going to send the police to you. Then he says, we only did this to appease voters in Quebec. This is just like, it stinks. This is the stinkiest scandal to come out of Canadian politics in ages. This guy has just revealed himself to be extraordinarily corrupt. And Mark Carney was asked about it yesterday, I think it was, and he said, I have full confidence in him.
That's the part that...
We talk about corruption in countries like Syria or Afghanistan or whatever. This is Canadian corruption. This is what it looks like.
It's unbelievable, because that clip is later. It's got put in the wrong place, but I was going to play it right here. But Carney to Stanton. Carney's done this several times already. This is a pattern for Carney. Remember when there was that person that actually got investigated by the RCP? The RCMP basically got him to stop running as a Liberal MP. Carney had full faith in him. Carney has full faith in this guy. This is absolute corruption. Chrystia Freeland, that is the scandal. Like, there's two massive scandals with cabinet ministers right there. Two massive scandals with Canadian taxpayer dollars. Two massive scandals. And what's and you watch Canadians, you watch the CBC and CTV, how they run cover for this. The CTV is distracting you every 2 minutes with a Donald Trump story. Like, what does that have to do
Jimmy
with
Kimmel lately?
Yeah. What does that have to do with Canadian politics when we have these two massive scandals right there in front of us? And the CBC and CTV are running Donald Trump stories to distract you from the real issues here at hand. This is absolutely scandalous. This is some of the biggest scandals that I can remember in Canadian politics. These are two cabinet ministers.
Yeah. And how has this been reported? I mean, I listened to this from CBC, and I also went on, it was either CTV or CBC's website, I can't remember now. And the way that they portrayed this was so dishonest, just like the way they portrayed the Jimmy Kimmel thing, just like the way they portrayed, I mean, everything really, the Tylenol reporting, it's all so dishonest. But the way that they reported this was, they said he's in trouble because he said that he doesn't think that there's sufficient resources to make this program function properly. That's not that controversial. That isn't the controversy. As usual, the CBC has set up a straw man, said, look, people are so upset about this thing, but it isn't that thing. People are upset about the transparent, obvious, in-your-face corruption of a minister of the Crown, telling somebody, I'll bail you out. I won't send the police to get your guns.
But
what the hell? This is an astonishing level of corruption.
Just to play off of your thing, I know you have a gun. You've told me you have that gun that we want to take away. We want to take it away from most of the Canadians, but not you. Yeah. I'll come and bail you out. Don't worry about it. As long as I have your vote, just don't worry about it.
And actually, I slagged off, I did insult the CBC there, but I have to say, there was a guy on TV called something Tasker. I can't remember his name. You probably know who I mean. Quite a young lad. He does a lot of their politics stuff. He was on camera, and he kind of like looked at the camera. He was doing like a piece to camera, and he said like something in a very understated way about how crazy this is, and how, like, you know, he said in a very respectable sort of quiet way what we've just been saying. So obviously, it's not lost on everybody at CBC and in the media. But then the senior editors, the people that determine what's put in your face as a consumer, they've determined that this is not a big story.
Yeah, so you just swamp the feed with Jimmy Kimmel, Tylenol, Jimmy Kimmel, Trump, climate change, just swamp the feed with that, and then bury a story later on that, you know, like Mark Carney still supports the safety minister. And then
but the other astonishing. I have to say, again, I've come from a good few years ago now, but I grew up in a country that has its own problems with, you know, various kinds of corruption that people know about over there in England. But I have to say, once again, if this happened in England, that minister would be gone within a couple of hours. And it would be like soul searching. The Prime Minister would come and do a speech to the nation and say, like, dear God, that was terrible. I'm really sorry, everybody. I won't make this mistake again. But here we are in Canada, and somehow Canada is in a worse position than England, which is they're completely in the sewer.
No. It wouldn't survive in the United States either. Wouldn't survive in the United States. They have media. They have media that actually works. We don't have media here in Canada. We have a corrupted media that works for the Liberal government. They're basically mouthpieces for the Liberal government. Look at the stories that they're going to do. They're going to cover this, and they're going to stuff it down, and they're going to bury it under Jimmy Kimmel and Tylenol. The other corruption and scandal that continues to happen in this government is the abuse of the Canadian taxpayer dollar. And here's this 2-day meeting. This is again from Holly Nolan Blacklock. So it sure didn't come from CBC, right? The Department of Industry, right? This is Jolie's. She loves to party. Who doesn't love to party? The Department of Industry billed taxpayers nearly $250,000, $329,000 to host a 2-day conference of green technology companies seeking federal subsidies. So they're coming to get free money, corporate welfare from the government, and the government's footing the bill, $329,000 to dole out corporate welfare. And it's, you know, and the thing is, now is the time to be ambitious for climate action. That's from Francois-Philippe Champagne. He was the minister of that post at the time, right? Innovative companies are driving economic growth. This is only a 2-day conference, 48-hour conference at the Westin Hotel in 2022, sponsored by Sustainable Development Technology Canada. See, we don't get this stuff for a couple years, right? They just like kind of like bury everything. Just like we asked how much they spent on Meta, which they said they were going to boycott, how much they spent on Meta. They told us they'd release that information for us in January 2026. Thanks for that, you know? $328,758. We got a little graph here to show you what they spent it on. Let's see if we can put that up. Look at that. There you go. Meeting space for the Westin. Westin loved that. $24,000 for a 2-day meeting. Pretty good, hey? Just for the meeting space. Westin doing okay. Because I can guarantee I can get a cheaper meeting space than that. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, I'm sure that one of the many public buildings that are supposedly empty, I'm sure they would have served that purpose.
And then travel claims. So yeah, so here's they all coughed in their travel claims, $62,000 in travel claims. Hospitality expenses. Everybody likes to have a drink every now and then, I guess, you know. 2 days. This is 2 days. This is
$41,500. What's that? What did they get for that? What sort of canapes?
It's the total. The total is 51,000. So you're not reading them both lines there. So just.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. Sorry, my mistake. $51,500. And so they got the really fancy canapes. They didn't just go down to Costco and get one of those sandwich platters, did they?
And then in the other category, what do we put in the other category? Who knows? Other, $190,811. This is 2 days. This is what they think of you and your taxpayer dollars. This is what they think of you. Francois-Philippe Champagne. And then they're going to float you a budget there in the next little while of like $100 billion, $100 billion. And meanwhile, Chrystia Freeland is going to go off from that scandal into the quiet there, where she doesn't have to report to anybody anymore, because she's going to be the envoy to the Ukraine. It'll always be, you know, it's national security interests. And here's a $4 billion bag of cash that we won't be able to disclose. Even Holly Donut Blacklocks won't be able to get that information, where that money went.
I love this later on in this story as well, where a deputy industry minister said in testimony, "I don't have strong recall."
Yeah, of course not. You know why? Because you were drunk. There was $51,000 in booze there.
It's the gravy train, isn't it? And obviously they would have it no other way. They would never do what we all have to do whenever we put some sort of shindig together, where we have to like
have a budget,
be careful what we spend money on, and try and be as conservative as possible on the money we spend.
Yeah, because they just say like,
"Hey, don't live like that, do they?"
What does it matter? The stupid Canadian taxpayer will take anything. We just run it up CBC. CBC will tell you that Pierre Poilievre and Now Media are getting money from Russia. That Jordan Peterson is getting money from Russia. So, like, you know, you're lucky to have the Liberals running the till here.
And what they'll do is they'll say, fact check. It wasn't money on booze and caviar. It was actually hospitality expenses. So yet again, disinformation from Vladimir Putin's favorite media network.
Well, we've been accused before of saying that we were getting Russian money because obviously we're taking the Liberals to task. But we haven't seen any. I must say,
I've noticed that's kind of died down a bit now, as not just in like accusations against us, but in general, that seems to have died down a bit.
Overplayed.
I guess so. I think it's become so ridiculous at this point that they need a new sort of conspiracy theory, don't they?
And just because Canada does too much money, here's another $60 million supporting for $60 million for Haiti. Carney has been handing out taxpayer money to various foreign groups. He said he'd give $207 million to address climate change, strengthen biodiversity, improve global children's nutrition. They love going to these UN things and just dishing out. Who do we apply to for money? Because we're going to need it pretty soon.
I mean, you're talking about improving children's nutrition. that problem exists here.
Exactly.
That problem exists in Canada. There are children going hungry in Canada. If you remember, Justin Trudeau made a lot of noise about that when he tried to put through the school meals funding.
Yep.
It just seems... I mean, we talked about it yesterday, weren't we? Like the cult of internationalism, the cult of globalism, or whatever. It makes them do very peculiar things, doesn't it? Like $207 million. That's not a small sum of money, and it's also not their money. Obviously, it's our money, and they just give it away willy-nilly, and then they get the plaudits, don't they? They get the applause, even though they're giving away somebody else's money.
They get the applause in the room full of elitists. That's where they get the applause.
Who also like to give away other people's money.
Ottawa had plans to sell some office space, but it was undermined by their drive to get public servants back in the office, right? So this is, so the Public Services Procurement Canada said in a document that to drive to return to in an office has undermined plans to sell some of those spaces. I mean, all those buildings have been empty forever. Like, what are they doing? This is just another confusion piece, right? Just like, oh, well, you know, we can't sell it, but we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't get people. Because, you know, federal workers are still only on a 3-day work week in the office. The ones that show up.
It's kind of like a pushback, isn't it? Where it's like, we don't want to do this, so we're just going to say that, oh, actually, it undermines your policy. It's kind of, it seems to be a part of a fight that's going on there.
Yeah, and then we do have a little bit here from Kate Harrison talking about the safety minister here. But I think we beat that up enough here. But let's listen to him. Let's listen to the safety minister himself. Then play the card. You know he's going to play the card, right? Let's not this one. We'll go to the next one, and we'll watch the public safety minister. They pull out the Liberals pull out this card all the time whenever they feel like they've been cornered. Let's go.
Language he's using, describing a particular. I do want to caution this member that he is really treading lightly in the language he's using, describing a particular group that he's concerned about, Mr. Speaker. It is borderline racism, and I do caution him to take note of his language.
Yeah, did you notice that in the background there, the leaders of the clowns right there? There's Stephen Guilbeault, the extremist that has destroyed Canada with Liberal policies over the past 10 years. And then Sean Fraser, the former immigration minister, if you look at our immigration policy, and then also the former housing minister, and look at the carnage that he left behind there. Now as justice minister, instead of going on the soft or the bail reform, he went after the Online Safety Act, basically, you know, like the hate speech. That's the focus, right? Like it's just like a comedy show. Racism.
But again, the theme of our conversation today might as well be that Canada is at least a decade behind the rest of the Anglosphere. You couldn't pull this off in the British Parliament without being booed and jeered and laughed at, you know. But he's given it a go, and it's, you know, maybe it's working. We'll see whether we've evolved sufficiently in this country to get past these obviously vexatious false claims of racism from people that don't have any arguments.
And then we'll see if CBC trots that out as well. See if they trot that out as one of their excuses not to fire Gary there. Poor Gary, you know. He's been a sitting MP since...
What kind of a scoundrel do you have to be to bring up that kind of thing when you got your back to the wall? Just think about that on a personal level. Just bring it right down to the individual. How little a sort of moral core, how tiny a moral core must you have to find yourself under pressure and come out and call somebody a racist? One of the worst things that you can call anybody. It's beyond my ken. I can't even get inside of his head and think like that much of a scumbag. It's kind of it's just beyond my ability to understand.
And we're going to play this. This should be the recycled speech. Mark Carney shouldn't have to make it again. Just play it whenever there's a Liberal minister in scandal. Just play this clip here.
A leaked audio recording of the public safety minister said that he couldn't explain the logic of the gun buyback program and that Ottawa was bending to pressure with Quebec. Today, he defended the program and still says he wants to go ahead with it. How can you have confidence in a minister that says one thing privately and another thing publicly in the House of Commons?
Well, let's first put this in context, which is that we're talking about fulfilling a campaign promise. We ran on this, first and foremost. Secondly, we're talking about taking guns off the street in a voluntary fashion. People voluntarily contribute the guns to the gun buyback program. But these are guns that are assault rifles, AR-15s and variants, thousands of variants, and that decisions have been taken by Parliament in previous parliaments to ban them. So we have a mechanic in place in order for people to return them, consistent with decisions of Parliament, sovereign Parliament, consistent with an election platform on which we ran and on which we were elected, and this is fulfilling that. And so the minister is doing important work.
You still have confidence in it?
I have confidence in the minister. He's doing important work. He's got a lot of important work this session of Parliament, including legislation on borders and others. Thank you.
Again, yeah, we have to ask ourselves, does this man seriously believe in democracy? Does he believe in liberal democracy? Is he trying to be a responsible democratic leader? We're told all the time that they're very concerned about the Canadian public's faith in institutions and democracy. They're really, really worried about that. They keep telling us that. So behaving like that when one of your ministers has done something reprehensible, disgraceful, and you come out and saying, "Oh no, it's fine. Like I still have confidence in him." Is that going to guarantee that Canadians have confidence in democracy, in our system? Are they going to look at this and say, "All right, this is great. I like this system. I like the way this works. There's definitely no need for me to come up with arguments against democracy now because it's working so perfectly."
Now, if you watch his pattern, you're going to start to see a pattern there where he kind of stumbles around a bit while he searches for a excuse, or how he kind of like, and the longer the answer, the more he puts in big words, the more comfortable he gets that, like he's kind of like got to a space where people don't even understand what his answer is, and then he can kind of wrap it up with like, this government is going to move ahead and do the work that they've been elected to do. And you're just like,
well,
okay.
He's just gone on about a mandate. He was talking about democracy, saying, "Oh, remember that we've got a mandate. People voted for us." Number one, you didn't win the election. A minority government, that's not a victory. You just had more seats than the other parties, but you don't have a majority. It's not like you can impose your will on the Canadian people. It's not like the Canadian people all got together and said, "You're the one. We want you." So get real, for starters, I would say. But he is trying to mask reality, isn't he? And he often slips up. Like he used a word there where he's like, "We've got a mechanic." That was just what the hell? I think he meant mechanism. And, he often stumbles on it. Like I've said on numerous occasions, English is not really his strong suit. I'd be surprised if he got high grades in English at high school. And although his dad, I think, was an English teacher, so maybe he helped him. But he struggles to communicate. He struggles to speak. I don't know very much about his French, to be honest. It seems to be about as bad as mine. But there's definitely a trend there. But I have to say, even when he's confident and he knows what he's saying, he still waffles, doesn't he? I think it's kind of it's like a defect that he has.
And then here's CTV putting out this piece. And let's remember that this fella here used to work for CTV. He's the head of AI. Do you remember his name?
I do, yeah. Mr. Solomon.
Yeah. So they're assembling an AI task force as it prepares. This is probably going to be our next scandal. They're preparing a AI task force to, again, Mark Carney said it yesterday. A lot of the top talent in Canada goes to the U.S. to work for AI companies. And we're assembling a task force? A task force?
Also, you notice that he's... as an avid reader of CBC, I know very well that he's gesturing there with a far right hand gesture, isn't it? I'm sure CBC told me that was a racist thing to do. Maybe he's joined the far right.
Evan Solomon was a former CBC reporter as well, fired for his dealings while he was a CBC reporter with none other than Mark Carney, where he was being an art dealer. And I'm not saying that was what was happening, but art dealing is typically how you move money around. Art dealing. Hunter Biden showed us how to do that, right? Hunter Biden was selling his paintings for millions of dollars, which were basically nothing more than, can't sell them now, can he? So it just tells you what it is. Hunter Biden couldn't sell it for the scrap value right now, but he was selling his paintings at the time. His pop was the president. He was selling his paintings for millions of dollars. And art is known as one of the best ways to kind of like launder money, move money, because there's no value, right? It's a perceived value,
Yeah.
right?
There's
So
another good way as well to there's another good way to fiddle the accounts and get money for something without people realizing, and that's when you publish a book, something that Hunter Biden also did.
Exactly. But so he was fired from the CBC for being Mark Carney's art dealer. Imagine that, eh? So that's our segment on the liberal scandal. That's a lot just for a day, right? That's the liberal scandals for the day in photo ops. That's this segment. We're going to come back with the BC politics in chaos. We're going to come back in a second with BC politics in chaos.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding,